Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She is the woman seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who will speak to your spirituality, sensuality, soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's Her Conversations is Sasha Korellis, founder of Satcha Malas. Malas are sacred adornments and traditionally used in spiritual practice to keep count of the mantras or the breath, much better than the jarring alarms of our phones. While it is possible to buy off-the-shelf malas, Sasha provides a sacred service and each piece is created with her individual client in mind and imbued with her passion and their intention. This means each piece is like no other and a powerful piece of technology that literally changes their life experience. I love to hear about the way other creatives work because the beauty of the final piece is always in the details. In this episode, you'll find out the most auspicious times to create malas, why the seed of a Rudraksha can cost as much as a diamond, and what happens when your malas stop working. So as always, I ask all of my guests on Her Conversations. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel at your most her?
You know, it was such a good question. And, it took me a little bit to kind of come to, I don't think there's one particular thing for me. I think definitely when I feel in resonance and like energetic resonance like that, it's a couple of things. And one is when I'm doing my sadhana and I'm very good in my sadhana and I'm in the flow and I might not be perfect, but I'm doing it. And that's the best, like every day. I feel like that gets me tuned in to the resonance, right? So like, that's the tuning part of it, and then once I've got that going, then, even just throughout my day, it's really just seeing and just having things kind of be unveiled where just synchronicities happen, kind of cool things come from elsewhere, and I just am able to see the beauty of things and I'm not in that negative mind. So I really think like, for me, when I'm feeling her is really when I'm tuned in. And that's, through my sadhana. It's also through a lot of the chants and mantras too that we do in Kundalini with Guru Jagat. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like if I've got these going on in my around me in my household, even if I'm not necessarily chanting them, but I have them on the phone or on the computer playing, I just feel like the vibration and that resonance just, starts to like really happen. And, and if I got all those things going on, then I'm definitely tuned in. And that's when the magic happens, in my opinion.
It's a nice little soup to cook in, and is it a few mantras? Have you got a favorite one at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, I'm ever since the beginning when I started really working with Guru Jagat a couple of years ago and like really getting into it, the Hara Hara Gobinde is my absolute favorite. And it's interesting because I always really loved it. And I have my favorite versions. Your playlist is awesome. Like I've been listening to that a lot. It's so good. You have such good versions of it. And it's like really beefy. So like I could have it on all day and it's great. The variety is amazing. And it's interesting because it's always been my jam and I like to do a lot of the kriyas to it as well. And then I finally read, I think around Christmas time, I finally read The Mind by Yogi Bhajan. And in my mind, I don't know what he calls it, like frame or whatever, is producer. And with the producer mind, Hara Hara Gobinde is like the recommended, prescribed mantra to do with a certain kriya or mudra, which I thought was so interesting. I'm like, of course it is. Like, yeah, of course that would be it. Because I really do feel like, I mean, even if I'm just singing it or putting it on, like things start to kind of come together and happen, which is really cool.
I'm going through an Apsahai Doa Sachida Sachida. I'm just playing that like constantly now and at night. I don't know, I'm caught in the loop of that one for a little bit now. I really like it.
That one is so beautiful. And there's so many different versions of it that I just really love. And then I think always the 30th Podi, the Ekamai. I mean, I think what's interesting, my husband's really into it too, and he really loves it. And like, even just the other day, like things were kind of not like getting a little bit sticky with just us doing our thing and being out in the world and reality. And I just started chanting it under my breath. And then all of a sudden, like everything just kind of like clear, like all the paths just cleared. And then we were like, okay, we're good. You know, and it was like, it was so amazing. And I said that I started chanting Ekamai, and he's like, totally. He's like, yeah, I'm sure you were, because it everything just shifted. And I was like, I know, isn't that wild? And so it's amazing to me how powerful these chants are. And, you know, and I think when we get into that vibration, and, you know, it can really shift the things around us. And I think you can use them and I see with Guru Jagat, it's like, you can use them for the certain things that you want to manifest. And I think it's really cool. I love it.
Isn't it an amazing little bit of magic?
It's
we know how to do. It's so good. And tell me a bit about your story, because we're going to be talking about malas and the magic of malas. How did you get to start to work and create with the malas?
You know, I mean, I think I've always been really into making jewelry of my own for a really long time. You know, forever. I think I've always like just been into like kind of creating my own, and, you know, even as a teenager, always like finding ways of like making new things and being kind of creative with that. And I had been in like kind of like around 2010, 2011, I was doing these really intense beaded necklaces that were taken from a whole bunch of vintage jewelry, like vintage pearl jewelry. And I was like combing the thrift stores and the flea markets and just grabbing as many and different kinds of pearls that I could find. I didn't care if they were plastic or glass or they're real. I don't even know. I might even have real pearls up there. Who knows? I wouldn't know. And so I was doing these really intense necklaces, and it was really therapeutic for me, because I think I was going through kind of a weird time and a transition. And so it was just really helping me kind of like focus and create something. And then I started really amping up my yoga practice and my meditation practice around 2013. I'd always been in yoga and meditation and kind of in and out, but there's a particular instructor or guru of mine that I just really fell in love with. And she really kind of pulled me back into what it's all about and really understanding what yoga is and all of the philosophy behind it. And when I was doing that and really cultivating a meditation practice for myself, I would see people wearing these malas and like what they were. And so then I just started studying about what they meant and what they were. And then I was like, I really want one to chant with, because like, as we were saying, we love to do the chants. And I feel like that really kind of gets us in the flow. And, instead of doing some kind of meditation timer on your phone or app, I really love the tactile of it and being away from the phone, right? And like just sitting with it, and then being able to wear it as like a sacred adornment. And then because I had like all of these pearls, all these vintage pearls, I started just making them with all the materials that I had. And so they're real funky. They're total like 80s vibe, like, like probably like Madonna in the mid 90s would probably wear one. They're real crazy. And I kind of love them. They're a little garish and wild and, red and peaks and, and all these pearls. It was like totally crazy. And I'd wear like 4 of them at a time. But of course, like, as I was getting more in tune of it, I realized, like, because it was just like, some of it was fake pearls and stuff, I just wasn't getting like the resonance of what the materials were made of. And so then I really started, and then I just started kind of transitioning away from the pearls and started learning more about sandalwood and its properties, and the Rudrakshas and its properties, and Tulsi, and of like more of the traditional materials that are used for malas, and then of course all the crystals. And I'd always been in love with crystals my whole life. My dad is a geologist, and both my parents are geologists and they're botanists, and so we have tons of rocks and crystals in our house. And I mean, even my dad, I FaceTimed with him yesterday, and outside we had, like, right outside in the outside eating area, he's got like a whole table just full of fossils, and he's like, yeah, I got these as party favors for the kids when they come over, and I'll bury them and they'll like go look for them. And that's just the way our house is. It's like we have plants and rocks everywhere, and like research, scientific journals. And so I think, like, I just started getting back into like really learning about the crystals, and I had like a pretty good basis from previous, but I think but once I kind of realized that there was a place to put them, and then what they were used for, then I feel like everything just started to come together. And so I just kind of spent a lot of time. So I really, like, around 2014, I started with the pearls. And then by 2016, like a couple of years of all of that experimentation and doing a lot of them that looked really awful, and I would give them away. But people would be like, yeah, I really want one. And I would literally just take it off and be like, here, it's for you. Because I didn't know what to do with them all, right? But then as I started getting more into it, I really kind of started setting a tone, and then I started really creating a process around it, because it really became for me a meditation. Because I'm sitting, I'm beating, I'm nodding, and I'm dealing with, these very profound and powerful materials in my hands. And so I'm feeling it all. And then when it was complete, it just had something, I don't know, it was like just something that was really lovely. And I started falling in love with them. Like, each one of them kind of had its own personality, and I've never made the same mala twice. I mean, I've had people ask me like, oh, I really like that one. Can you make me one like it? I do, but I do it very, like, I always make sure something's different. So they're like all these unique ones all over. So that's kind of like the first phase. Like, that was, I think, really for me, like the journey of kind of like finding what a mala was, and really kind of, learning about it and becoming a student of meditation, and then using the tool and like really understanding the tool, experimenting with the tool, my own practice. And it was a great time. And then I think when I really started getting into like the better quality stuff, and like the threads that I use took me a long time to find, and they're very special. They're organic linen. They're all natural dyed linens, and they're beautiful. Like the colors, I mean, and that was just one of those things where I just happened across a store randomly, and there they were in the window, and I was like, oh my God, and there they were, and then that was it. So as I started doing that, and then, part of the bigger story, is that in 2016, in the beginning of 2016, late 2015, I made the decision to get sober. I'd always had, the off and ons. I would go too far, I would back off. And like, I had been doing that for so long. It's, being a teenager and in my 20s and my 30s. And, there were great stints where I wasn't doing it at all, and it wasn't a big deal. but it just got to a point where it was a little bit too much, and it started to get in the way of my life and in the way of my practice. I think that's a big one. I think because I wasn't showing up for myself, I couldn't show up for my practice, and things had to change. And so kind of fast forward through those first 6 months, the malas really became my solace in a way, and like really kind of like the lifeline that I needed, because it kept my hands busy, and my mind busy. And so what I did to kind of do that, and it's funny because it's like all intuition. It's not like I planned it or I thought through, like, but when I look at it in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I see what my mind process, where my subconscious was going, where I needed to have something to put this energy into, this creative energy, this female, really powerful, creative energy into something that wasn't getting drowned in a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, for that matter, or two, like it's something had to shift, like and I was spending way too much energy on things that were just pulling me down rather than boosting me up. So I was in a group, a sobriety group, and it was all online, so we weren't really meeting each other, and we were on Facebook a lot in the secret group, and we were meeting each other and talking about this stuff, and we were meeting online and talking about our journeys. And so I just kind of threw out a random bone, and I just said, hey, I make malas. If anyone is interested, send me a direct message. Just if you can just pay for the materials. I'd love to just kind of talk to you about what you're looking for in your journey, blah, blah. So it was like the whole idea of what I'm doing now just got culminated in that one Facebook post. And once that happened, I got just like order after order after order after order. And so like that whole 6 months of me getting sober, and that summer, I spent a lot of time just making malas for other people. And it was what was interesting about it is that I think part of my healing and their healing was all coming through that mala. Because I mean, they would say like, I just need some calm. I need to find my voice because I feel like I've been just, repressing myself. I really need to open my heart because I'm got so much anger or trauma and all of these things. And so we were sharing, and I would, chat with them either on the phone or via text or, whatever worked. And so they were telling me what they needed. And then we were picking the crystals. And then so like any of their stuff was also mine. And then we were like healing each other through it. And so there was just like this like alchemy of another set of magic of healing each other. And it was so cool. Like, and that's really where it started. I'm always, when I think about it, and I'm telling you right now, I'm amazed like that's what happened. And I'm still just in awe of how the universe works, and how this stuff happens, right?
Yeah, and it's just the power of something that you were playing with, and then just one little seed of an idea. It's like, hey, why don't I do this? And then it just came, and it shows there was an absolute need for it on both sides. So when you were talking to somebody about what it is they needed, when you're actually in the process of creating it, how do you incorporate that into what you're putting into all the components of the mala?
I just put myself in a pretty deep meditation when I'm sitting down to do the mala, and I really treat it as a very sacred work. I'm thinking about the person. I'm going back and reading the notes. I'm really putting them in my mind and their intentions. And a lot of the times too, like, I play a lot of the chants and our mantras and all of that too. And sometimes I'll choose if I feel like they need a particular thing. and I'll just have it like vibration wise, like sometimes I'll just have it on my workbench, and even if I can't hear it, I just know that the vibration is happening. And so then what I'm doing is that each of my malas is hand knotted between each bead. And so like every time I would tie a knot, I'm just making that prayer. And for, whatever it is that they're bringing in. And sometimes they have, a list of things, and I kind of just keep everything in my mind. So I'm just basically like me and the client create a container, and we open it up and we put the stuff in it. And then I just make sure that we're, getting all of that stuff. Then the mala really becomes then the product of the container. And so then it's holding all of that stuff that we've worked on and we put in. And then that way, when the client gets it and they put it on, like it's almost as if they're like, I love Harry Potter movies. And so I love the idea, like, it's like kind of like the invisible cloak, or it's like a magic power where I'm like, when you put it on, you're putting all of that energy on your body and on yourself. And I have certain places where I put the crystals too, where I have a big set on the back of the neck, at the heart chakra and at the sacral chakra. And so it's hopefully like touching all of those points as well, so that it's like their crown, it's their invisible cloak, it's their magic, piece that they put on, so that when they go out into the world or when they're doing their thing, that is all coming through, and it just becomes kind of part of their body or their their personality or whatever. And so I put a lot of intention in, and I know, like, what's cool is that the feedback I get from people when they get it is just I'm always just so humbled, and so, I don't know, just because I feel like the work just comes through my hands too, and I'm disembodied from it in a way, but I'm embodying it, but I'm disembodied, because it's like the mala is its own entity, it's like we just created it. My hands created it, but me and the client created it together. And I know with a lot of clients, they get it and they're like, as soon as I put it on, I felt like a total shift. And I have other clients where they're like, I don't take it off. I sleep with it. I put it on. I feel really weird when I don't have it on. And, I have people that are like, even if I'm not wearing it, I always have it in my bag or in my pocket or in my hand. Or I have it when I'm traveling all the time, it's always with me. And so it's interesting to me how, with just all of that intention and all that energetic intention, that we can create these things that are so powerful, that it becomes more than just a necklace, or it becomes more than just a bracelet. It becomes something much more profound. And I think that's why mine are different too from other people's. Like, I have a lot of people who are like, well, I have other malas, but when I got yours, like, it was so different. Like, and I'm like, well, yeah, because we made it together. Like, you can go on Amazon and buy any sandalwood mala for $8, but I don't know who made it and where, or the intentions put into it. You can always do your own, of course, but I feel like this is a much different process, I would say.
You've got the power. Exactly. Can you talk about the different component, like the different beads, the reason why you use certain amounts, the threads that you use, and the significance of all of those components that make up the mala?
So the main malas I make are the 108 malas, which are it's 108 beads all around, and then it has one big guru bead, and that's really the traditional mala itself. And 108 is a very sacred number, and we could Google it and find all these different things, why it's so significant. But I think there's a couple of things why I think it's really cool. One is that when, I think it's called semantics or somatics, when the vibration of the sound of Om, which is the sound of the universe, when it's actually vibrated, and if you put like sand on a metal sheet and you vibrate it, it actually makes the shape of the Sri Yantra, which is like the geometric pattern for the universe as well. And it's, intersecting triangles, and it's, Shakti and Shiva. And then there's in the middle, there's the dot of the Big Bang, or like the singularity particle where we all came from, right? So, and that's a huge vibration. And so the sound of Om actually creates that shape. It's crazy. You can like go Google it and like look at all the YouTube videos and stuff. And I just think that's the coolest thing. And I've always been really into the Sri Yantra as well as like a meditative tool to, Guru Jagat calls it something, the Tradicum. I think when you're meditating on a shape, I think it's called the Tradicum. And so then when you're meditating and you're looking at it, then there's like a whole nother layer of meditation levels that you can get into. And so I've always been really drawn to that symbol. And but the other thing that's cool is that there's exactly 108 intersections within the Sri Yantra, which I'm like, how does that happen? Like that's total divine.
That's design.
Yeah, that is divine. That is super magic. There's something really amazing about that. And I love the number 108. And there's like a million things. Like I think it's like there's like a distance from here to the moon, like breaks down to 108, and like you can just, there's like a million different things. But I love the Sri Yantra and the Om story. That's my favorite. And then the Guru bead is really like your home. Like it's like you go around the 108 when you're doing your mantras or your chants or your breath. And then you come back to your Guru bead, and it's like, kind of like sealing the practice in or moving, and doing another round of it. And so what I started to do, so the way, like the anatomy of the mala for mine, and what I found was, after so much experimentation of like placement and the materials, like you were saying, is that on the back of the neck, I have like a separator, and it's at the very back of the neck, and it's right in the dead center. And I use a hematite bead, and the hematite is very grounding, and it really kind of brings kind of our spiritualness and like our divine energy to this earthly plane, so that we can actually manifest things here.
I like it.
I love it, right? It's such a beautiful, I got mine, my little guy.
So I've got mine as well. It's amazing how if you hold it against something else, you can feel it literally pulling you down.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just have them. I've got them kind of balanced in.
Oh yeah, you got your amethyst and your hematite. You got it super balanced. So it's perfect. Yeah. And I think that's really cool, because we can be playing up here in the ether and have all these dreams and thoughts and beautiful ideas and all of that. But if we don't bring it down to this earthly plane and bring those gifts that we're supposed to as human beings here in this time and space, then we're lost. And so I really feel strongly about having that hematite on the back of the neck, because I feel like everything, it just pulls in everything and brings it here. And I think that's super important. So we're not just like floating out into the ether.
Which can be easily done if you spend enough time just kind of mantraing and meditating and all that.
I mean, I like it there. I'm sure you do as well. Like, I love being up there, but we got work to do here.
Yeah, so we've got to come back.
Yeah, we got to come back, and we actually got to get some work done. And then on either side, then I have 3 crystals on either side of that hematite. And so I work in 3s as well, because I find like the Trinity number and 3s and divisions of 3 is really powerful too. And you can look that up. It's like so many different ways of looking at it. There's just, the Trinities are just everywhere. in our, kind of in our sacred, epic consciousness. And I think that it's really important. And for me, it's really important because I feel like that's part of the resonance that you're asking about. Like, I think numbers and mathematics is just as important, as the chants and the sounds. And that's mathematic. I mean, those are waves. And so it's all mathematics at the end of the day. And so I've got the 3 crystals there, and that's, where we kind of choose, and, and so that just really kind of puts everything kind of in the spine, and like gets it into the spine. So it's like programming it all the way through. And that's kind of what that whole back section is. I know a lot of people are like, I don't even get to see it. I'm like, yeah, but it's okay. Like,
it's doing the work
there. It's doing a job. And then I do 21 sandalwood. I use sandalwood, or I use Tulsi. And sandalwood is a very precious and very sacred wood, as well as Tulsi, where, it's been used for millennia, in any kind of, sacred adornments and things. And it just smells so good. And it's very much about like it's like about the positive self and the positive vibe. And so I feel like that kind of embodies the self. So that's why I kind of put the crystals within the sandalwood, so that there's like the activation stuff, but it's within the sandalwood as the self. So it's like, it's like me. Okay, I'm programming in, this new kind of algorithm. And then, we're just because then the model is really just them, but that whole sandalwood is really the self. And then, so that's like, so it goes 3 and then 21 on each side. And then in the middle, I do another set of 3, and that really hits right at the heart chakra. Because I think no matter what, I just feel like everyone's a little stuck here. Right. And like no matter how loving you are or any of that, we still just need to kind of open our hearts and let it out, because there's a lot of woundings and trauma, and then the real world, going to the grocery store, I just feel like I need to like it's just a simple thing sometimes. And I'm like, whoop, I got to close that heart chakra. Right? Like, just, going to work, walking down the street. It's like, sometimes it's too much.
Yeah.
So
take a tube in London.
Right. Exactly. Like getting on the tube there. It's like, woof.
Yeah.
Like I shut down. I was there a couple of years ago, and when we were walking around, and it was intense. Like, I was like, "Ooh, I gotta just get in my little space here." So that's why I put like those 3 here, and you see it and you feel it, and it's on your skin here, because I feel like that really helps open up. And irregardless of where the crystals are supposed to be kind of programming into your spine, into your chakras, I feel like this is a good input right center here, because it's right in the middle and we're going right for it. And then it's another 21, and then I have another 3 on either side at the bottom, at the sacral, at our navel point, again, because that's another place we get stuck, and we hide, and it's our creative force. And that's so important, right? Like, we're here to create. We're creators. We're all creators. And so I feel like once I can get that there, and I have the Rudraksha seed, then that actually starts to open up that sacral point as well. And so, like, I know all of this and I feel it, but some people, they're just not there to talk about the chakras and the points and all of these things. But it's okay, because I know when they put it on and they email me and they're like, I feel so good, I know that it's working, even if they have no idea what a chakra is, or do they care? Some people don't care. They're like, I just need something that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And then I use the Rudraksha seed as the guru bead, because I think these are the coolest things. And they're very sacred seeds. And in India, they actually grade the Rudraksha is like diamonds.
Right. Okay.
I mean, they're very, very powerful, and they all have different. So they call their mukis is the faces. So that if you see, well, we're on video, but there's it's divided, and there's actually 5 faces.
Is that a natural division?
Yeah, it's a natural division, and they
Wow.
come in like sometimes they're grown and they grow and they have all these different divisions, and so you can go to like 1 to 13, and I mean, I actually once was doing research on Rudrakshas, and I found a Rudraksha that was $10,000, just one.
Why?
Because it was so rare and so holy, and they grade them like diamonds. It was like so perfect. It was so beautiful. I mean, it really was like the color. Like they look at the color, they look at the integrity of the seed itself and how defined it is, and like they have their own, just like diamonds, they just have their own set of criteria.
Wow.
And it was really beautiful. Like I was like, that really is nice.
What is sorry to cut you, what's the history?
So it's from a holy tree in the Himalayas, and those forests are very sacred, and they're mainly just in India. There is a Rudraksha forest in Hawaii that not everybody can get into, but I have a contact. I think I might be, next time I go to Hawaii, I actually think I can get in and see it. And so what the story is that it's said that the Rudraksha seed is actually the tears of Shiva. And so when Shiva opened up his third eye, and he saw the suffering of humans on earth, he cried. He had tears, and then the seeds were the Rudraksha seeds of his tears. And it also means, I think Rudraksha means like the eye that is there, or the eye that can see but isn't seen. I think that's how it translates, like, because it's Rudraksha. And so I think it's like something like that, where it's basically our third eye. What's seen is what we see is unseen, and unseen is seen. And so I feel like this is such a powerful bead. And people always ask me what it's all about, because it's such a weird, it looks like a nut. They're like, what's that weird nut? And I'm like, it's sacred. And it's got a lot of grooves in it, and it's really beautiful. And so I put my essential oils in it too, and just so that kind of helps when you're meditating, just to kind of bring it back. But also I just feel like if you look at if you look at like pilgrims at all of the temples in India, that when they're on their pilgrimages, or they're there to honor the gods and themselves and the universe and all of that, like you'll see pilgrims with full malas of Rudraksha seeds. And they'll just be like stacked on. And
do they grow larger than that? Because I've seen people with like massive ones. Are they the really expensive ones?
Yeah, they can be real big. They can be real small too. Like I've got some small ones. This one, so I have one that was actually like blessed by a guru. She's no longer with us, but it's it's all Rudrakshas, and so it's really thick, and it's beautiful, and it feels really good. And what they say with the Rudrakshas, and why they're made and why they wear them as sacred adornments, is because it's said is like the Rudraksha is our heart home. And it actually, when we wear it, it actually becomes our own kind of like personal cocoon safety. So no matter where we go, there we are. So wherever we go, wherever we're journeying, if we're journeying physically or if we're spiritually journeying, when we have our Rudraksha and we have it on, we're always home. And we always can kind of come back to our home base, no matter what's going on. And so that's why I have it as a guru, because I feel like there are the times when, I'll even just say it and I'll be like, I just want to go home. And I might even be actually in my actual home, but it's like, I need to like go home in my, wherever, my thought palace or whatever. And that's what I think is so important about that. And that's why I have it there, because I know for me, when I'm feeling that, or it's too much, or, there's things I need to work out, I know I can just grab it and hold on to it. And I'm kind of back in my place, and so there's a bit of a safety thing around it too. And just knowing, you're always, no matter what, you're in your heart, you're always here, you're always back home, no matter what happens, no matter where you are.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you put tassels on yours as well?
I do. I love the tassel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really love I like to just, basically I pull all the seeds, pull the whole necklace down into the Rudraksha, and then I use the same thread, and I just do like a really simple tassel. I leave it a little long, so if people want to trim it, it's totally fine. And then I will put my my charm on it, that just says love, and people can either keep it or not, but I think people like the little charm on the tassel too, because I think it just kind of reminds you, and kind of puts it all together. And then sometimes I find really fun charms as well, and so we'll get a little fun with that too.
So how do you go about choosing the crystals then? The other stones. How do you make that decision?
It's interesting. I use my intuition a lot. I really know my crystals very much. I'm very studied on them all, and definitely know the vibrations, and really what they bring about. And then the other part of it is just really knowing how they resonate with each other, because I might use 2 or 3 different crystals in a mala. And so you want to make sure that the crystals are actually getting along as well. So really, when I'm talking to the client, and we're kind of going through their intentions and what they want to manifest, I'm just writing kind of those keywords down, and sometimes it's real easy and it comes straight from the source of what's going to be the right crystal. And it's very, very clear. And that's fairly easy. And once I have that, then I actually will lay out the crystals together of the beads, and I'll choose the beads for them. I'll lay them out, and I let them stew a little bit and sit with each other a little bit to see if they resonate and if they're happy. And I'll make changes sometimes too if it's not working. So I really get in. That's where all that meditation comes in, where the resonance comes in. Like, I really have to be in that space and that flow to be doing that work, because that also is just coming through me. It's not, I can't really put in, and I can't really intellectualize it, right? It just happens. And then sometimes there's some people that it's really difficult. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes, and I tell my clients too, like a lot of, it's gonna take what it takes. Because sometimes it does. Like, some come real easy and they're just like done and they're ready to go, and then some can take a while and they'll sit, and then all of a sudden I'll just be like, okay, it's ready to tie now, and I'll just tie it up, and I'll knot it up and it's ready to go. So it's like I kind of have to be. It's it's definitely organic. It's an organic process. So I usually ask people to allow at least 2 to 3 weeks. And sometimes it gets there early, and sometimes it's the full 3 weeks. And so that's kind of how I do the crystals. And it seems to be good. It's always amazing to me too, because I'll put them together, and then once I tie it up and it's together, then I'm like, okay, yeah, you're okay, and you're right. And there's times when I put them together and it's so not okay, and I just start over, and I can just feel it. The other thing too, why I ask people to allow me the time, is because I've noticed over the last 2 years that when I'm nodding, I can't just do it whenever. I really find that my most active times are at the new moon and the full moon, and like the 3 to 4 days around it, or when we have eclipses. And like today, because it's like the Lion's Day, the Leo portal, like I feel really energetic, so there's a lot going on. And so like it's really kind of those times too where the creative force just kind of takes over. And that's why I ask people to give me 2 to 3 weeks, because sometimes I'll lay it out and I won't tie it until either the new moon or full moon, because it's just, it just wants to sit and wait and be ready for that. And then I think that that's cool, because then a lot of the times too, if people want to, you know, really like bringing things in, you know, I feel like the full moon is good for that. And then people that need to like release and transition, then I think the new moons are best for that too. So and I've gotten really in tune with that, and that's all from the meditation.
It's great because it's ultimately it's a technology, isn't it?
It's
really,
totally,
it's
yeah.
And I think as more awareness is coming up about, or more accepted awareness about crystals and the technology around crystals and the power of each one, it's now seeing how they are being accepted as this can actually do something for me, as opposed to it's just something pretty that can sit on, well, it can be something pretty that sits around, but also it can actually do something. And it's interesting as well, because I'm seeing, even though she's not doing Malas yet, but Victoria Beckham,
Yeah,
she's actually doing like crystal, real kind of proper crystal jewelry now as well as part of her range. And I sent it to a friend of mine the other day. She's got her daughter, it's like a little factory thing, her daughter's going around doing all the saging before they put them in the shop as well. So, you know, it's amazing how it's actually becoming more and more mainstream and everything, and like that as well. You, when we talked before, you were talking about doing remixes. I like that.
Oh yeah, I love the remixes. So a lot of the times, so a couple of things, like you know, especially for some of the people that I had first started the Malas with back in 2016, it's like, you know, we're taking this container at this point in time, and they're, you know, they're like, I'm working on this, and this is what I want to bring in, these are my intentions, these are the manifestations. But then life changes, and life, you know, moves and flows, and the waves and all of these things. And then a lot of time, I do a lot of remixes. And so basically people will be like, you know, I really love my mala, but I haven't been wearing it. And I'm like, well, that means it's pretty much done its thing. It's done its duty. So let's remix it. And so what I have people do is I have them return it, and then I take it apart. And it's also very, you know, I definitely put intention into all of the removal of it as well. And kind of, you know, it's very surgical. And then we have another conversation of like, okay, so we did all of this work, and we put all these intentions in your first mala, and now it's manifested, you're doing it, it's done, like it happened. So now what's the next phase, what's the next level up that we want to do? And so we'll just have another conversation, and then I will reset the crystals. So we'll pick new crystals, but I use their same sandalwood and their same Rudraksha, because that's their self. So that stays. And I think that's cool, because then when they send it back to me, it's like I can feel them in the mala, and like, you know, and I can smell them, you know, like I'll open it up and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Natalie. Like I can smell, it's her smell, and it's on there, and it's like, and then it's so beautiful because it's them. And so we're going to just put in some new energy and move it and play it forward. And so that's really cool. So I do that. I mean, usually people just DM me, and I haven't really formalized it on the website, but when I send it to people, I'm like, you know, when you stop wearing it, you know, call me, and we'll reset it with some new crystals. And then usually sometimes if the crystals are really worn out, like they've really done a duty, I just kind of put them back into my collection and try to revive them up. But sometimes I'll get them back and I'll take them off and they still have a lot of residual energy left. And so I'll just remix the old crystals into just mala bracelets. Mm-hmm. So they have their crystals back, and then their 108 mala actually has like the new crystals in. So that's fun. I love doing that. But I just did I did a remix for a friend, and it was one of her first ones in 2016. And it was so, I was like, man, you really sucked the life out of this thing. Because the crystals, I was like, oh man, like they really were working hard for you. And so, I just have them here. They're back in the flow. And the other thing too, what I think is interesting, and I'm Guru Jagat actually clued me into this, is that when we were doing the long Ekankar, the 40 days of it, I don't know if she was saying it or if it was someone else. I can't remember. But I do all my meditation here with my crystals here in my space. I have my meditation station, and I have all my crystals here. So when I'm meditating and resonating, they're all getting the vibe in there. And so I think that's also what makes the difference, because I'm not just, getting these just from anywhere, any hobby shop. Like I've got some really good suppliers, but I don't release them out until I've actually sat with them and I've kind of vibed them in and kind of steeped them in all of this. And all of the work that we're doing too, because I feel like when we're in our, immense grace, or we're in our Aquarian Women's Leadership Society, we're all a part of that resonance. And so I feel like it's all of us putting all of that stuff into there when we're all doing our work, simultaneously,
Definitely makes a difference, don't you? And then you notice it when you do go to the shops, how different things are. Is there an age that you would say what's the youngest ever wearer customer that you've had for malas?
My youngest, I think, I just did one for a 2-year-old, and it was the cutest little tiniest. I didn't do a 108. But my friend wanted me to make a small one for a bracelet for her little daughter, and it was like the cutest thing ever. Like it was so tiny and so sweet, and we put like these really like sweet crystals, because she was like, she was cranky and she needed a little protection, and she was very sensitive little baby. And so we made these little tiny ones, and then I'm actually doing another one for some kids. I love doing these for kids. Like they like the kids like the bracelets more, but I do a lot for the kids and they love them. Like I have some fans. I have some kid fans that like I see them wearing them all the time. I know Rose Harkins, her daughter, I made them for Ella, and every time I see her in her videos, she's got them on. Like, and I made them for her in March, and she's always has them on. So that's super fun.
And what are the crystals that you use for the little ones?
For the little ones, I use sometimes, well, for teenagers, I do a lot of ones for teenagers too. And there's been a couple of cases I had. It was interesting. I think it was last fall. I had this situation where within like about 4 to 6 weeks, I had several clients contact me, and they told me their teenagers were self-harming.
Right.
And that was spooky. And I was, whoa, that is some really intense stuff. And so I looked into it, and I read more about it. And so I was using obsidian and black tourmaline to kind of protect them from like any the negative energies around them. And then I was using I used this really beautiful stone that's called gold rutilated quartz, and it's quartz, and it's got this this gold thread through, and it's very programmable. And it's like really bringing the light within. And kind of finding that again. And so I was really trying to like do this like protection around them so that whatever was feasting on them, they could close themselves down, but then they actually had the power to bring their light forward, so then they could just burst that through. So that was really interesting. So kids, I do a lot of protection stuff. You know, they sometimes when I'm doing one with them, I just let them pick, and you know, they love amethyst, and they go for the amethyst, they go for the amazonite, which is all about speaking their truth and speaking up, which I think is cool. And you know, and then I think they love the rose quartz because it's, you know, it's all about love, and you know, the new generations are just like this, they're so cool, they're totally open for that.
Sure.
There's no shyness around it, you know.
And what are your favorite ones to make? If you were making one for yourself, what do you like to wear? You know,
I'm a really big fan of the gold rutilated quartz. That's definitely kind of my signature stone. Not only for my own malas, but for myself too. I wear a big ring of it, and I have a big crystal bracelet of it as well. So I really love that. And then I really like, this month I've been having a love affair with a stone called kunzite. And it's like this really beautiful kind of purpley pink, kind of iridescent, pearly looking thing. And it kind of looks like, if I was going to say like what the planet Venus looks like, it kind of looks like that, where it's just got like this diaphanous shimmer, like clouds, and it's like all pink and purple. It's so pretty. And so I love just like looking at them really close with my little magnifying glass. And I love that one. And that is all, it's actually, it's heart opening, but it's like heart opening to the divine in all things. And of just like, are the cosmos and the plants and the animals and humans and what's beyond the beyond. And so it's just, I just love it so much. And so I love combining that with the gold rutilated quartz. And then I've also been I just got this really great batch of amazonite that's from Madagascar, I think. Let's see. And it's like the most beautiful blue I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's a nice color.
It's just, and when you look at this up close, it just looks like the sea, you know, like the waves, if you're like in the Caribbean or in the Aegean. It just has this beautiful watery feel. So it's like every month I always seem to have like a stone that I'm in love with. You know, and I have like a love affair with it, and then, you know, I kind of move on to the next one, and it's fun.
Are there ones that are like super, super rare that you can't get hold of, or, you know, would be like the piece de resistance of Mali?
You know, the one that I get asked for a lot, and it's always hard, you know, I kind of have to wait and get the right ones, is there's this jade, it's called Burmese jade. And it's just got the most soft, beautiful kind of, and when I get the strands of it, it's all these different shades of greens, kind of like from white to dark green. And it's like the most lovely green I can find. And that's always rare. My crystal dealer, she only has like one or two strands around, and she'll text me when she's got one. She's like, "You want one?" I'm like, "Yes, like give me all of them." Because people really love it. I mean, it's really beautiful to work with. And then, you know, I work with a lot of labradorite in different grades, and I have a labradorite because I think that's a super magical stone. It's got the shimmer, like the aurora borealis, and this one is really beautiful because it's got like the blue.
There's like an iridescence to it, isn't there, almost?
Yeah, it's got like the blue flash in it, and it's really magical and really beautiful. So, you know, there's some that are hard to find. The gold rutilated quartz can be hard to find for quality. Like I can find stuff but it's very cloudy. And I think that's okay for like bracelets and stuff. But if I'm doing mala necklaces for people, like I really want to have the clarity in it. And that can be hard to find sometimes.
It's just, I'm just imagining when you said my crystal dealer, it just kind of brings a connotation to a completely different world. It's like, and then she's going out and sourcing the best crystals to come back.
Yeah, she's really amazing.
Where does she go for them? Where does she go? Where does she go, or her source is secret?
I don't know. She's a magician, and I came across her just by happen chance. I went to a crystal show that I really didn't want to go to that day, and I was real cranky and in a bad mood, and I don't know why. I ended up just going because I think I just needed to get out of the house or whatever, and I was like, I don't want to drive that far, and I went anyway. And I was walking around, it was huge. I was walking around and I'm like, God, why am I here? I feel like I'm wasting my time. And then I kind of came around the corner and then I saw her table like in the middle of the room. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? And I just went, and she came right up to me. Her name's Kelly. And we just started talking and I was like, this is the best stuff I've ever seen. And she's like, yeah.
She knows.
She knows. She goes straight to the sources. She gets her stuff drilled herself, so they're perfectly drilled. Where it's not just like drill. Like even like with the labradorite, they're drilled so that you get the best flash in the bead, so the hole doesn't go straight through the flash. So she totally knows what she's doing. She's got like so she gets it and then she drills it, or I think she even gets there's some stones where she actually gets them made into the beads and then gets them drilled. So she's like really deep into it. And I love her. She's on my my speed dial, my text, and anytime I'm just like this. And then sometimes she'll send me stuff. She's like, look, I just got this in. And I'm like, yes, send it. But every time I get stuff from her, even, I think she loves her crystals so much. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like you can go to gem shows and get crystals, but again, like if the people don't care and they don't love it, you don't feel it. And I was looking for somebody that I could work with on this level, and she totally gets it. She's so in tune. And when I get the box from her of the supplies, when I open it, I can feel her and her love for her crystals. And so it plays it forward again. And that's super important to me. And the same with the sandalwood. I don't get it just from anyone. I get it from a woman who runs a non-for-profit in India for widowed women. And so she basically gives them jobs and like it's like kind of a craft collective. And so that when the women when her workers are, they're actually drilling and making the sandalwood, and then they're putting them on the threads of 108, they're all sitting in a circle and talking and singing and praying. And so when I get the sandalwood from them, then I can, and the Rudrakshas too, then I can feel all of their energy too. And so that's why it's really important for me. Like my supplies are, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but it's where I wanted to be and what I was always striving for.
That's great. And that's just adding to why everything feels so magical around you as well. So I just want to ask these questions that I ask everyone who comes onto the podcast. So the first thing I want to ask is, what is the best piece of advice a woman has ever given to you?
There's a few things. I mean, I was thinking about this, and there's a few things that from 3 different of my teachers that I use often. I think the one that I love from Guru Jagat that I always tell myself and every day is, excuses are self-abuses. And I use that a lot because I can make excuses for myself and why I'm not going to do sadhana, or why I'm not going to do this or this or that, whatever, or take care of myself. And then I always just repeat that mantra to myself, and it pulls me out. And then I'm on the path, and I'm on the right path. Because I don't want to self-abuse, like I want to move forward. The other one comes from my my vinyasa guru, Stephanie Snyder, and She says, if someone's pushing your buttons, remove the button. And I love that. I can get really hung up on people pushing my buttons, and I'm super sensitive, but as soon as I feel that, I'm like, remove the button. Okay. And it's such a simple practice. So simple, so easy. And then the other one is from my really good friend, Natalie Fairbrook. And it's her mantra, and hers is just try easy.
It's super, super simple.
It's so simple, but it says it's everything.
Of course.
It's everything, because we complicate things with whatever. And it's just like, if it starts to feel complicated and heavy and overwhelmed, like, try easy. Maybe you don't have to do all of those things. Or maybe there's an easier way. Why are you getting so hung up on it? And that one has resonated with me for the last few months. I've been using that a lot, where if I start getting amped up, I'm like, try easy. Okay. Like, let's get back to that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And which female do you think represents higher energetic resonance to you?
Well, you know her and I. I mean, come on, that woman is like resonating at such a high rate. I mean, she shimmers. That's how much she resonates. And I think seeing her in person and being in her presence, she shifts the energetic levels, and she does it in a room, and then she does it across the cosmos and in the world. I mean, we're all connected in her resonance, and it's profound. And so it's her, definitely, hands down.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And I've tried to explain it to people. I think I've met her in person twice. And especially the last time I met her, I was trying to explain what it was like to be in her presence, and of the rest of the Rama as well. It's a different. They almost glide around. They've got this movement. They've got this energy about them that it makes you aspire to do the work as well. You know what you're trying to create around yourself, because and then you can see the difference where everyone else is vibrating, and you understand the work and why you're doing the work and where you want to get to and what it can bring, and then also how it makes other people feel, which is really important as well, because you want people to leave you feeling better than when they when they first came to you for whatever reason, to just kind of remember you on that level. I think it's a Maya Angelou quote, isn't it? People may not remember what you said or what you did, but they'll always remember the way that you made them feel. And they do have this real kind of, you come away just going, oh, you do feel heart opened, everything, that kind of love feeling from there as well, which you realize is so lacking.
Yeah. I think the thing too with Guru Jagat that I love, I think what's different with her, and I think it's because she's a yogic scientist at the end of the day, is that there's just not any bullshit with her. Like, she's not doing like the hooey wooey bullshit on you. Like, it is real and it's true, and you do it, and it's there's just it's very honest and straightforward, and I love that, and the results, she's like, I promise you that you're going to see the results, and you do it and you see the results, and you're like, okay, like, you know what you're doing and what you're talking about. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to her, because there's not this whole like hooey wooey new age vibe and like, it's definitely, it's very, it's I wouldn't say controlled or systematic, but it kind of is, which, I like. I love that, because it's very tangible and it's very real.
And that's what drew me to get involved with Rama and all the things that they're offering, all the courses and everything like that, because like you say, there are lots of kind of light floaty, but then the
love and light people, as she always says. She's like,
yeah,
those love and light people, I'm always a little bit, they And I kind of feel the same way, you know.
They make you nervous because it's just like, okay, it's all well and good, but like we're still living in the world and we have to deal with that.
Right. Well, and she says it in the name of it. It's like a yogic science applied technology. It's applied, so we're applying it. It's not this whole love and light and hooey thing. It's like we're applying these technologies and we're seeing results, and that's so different and so way beyond everyone else at this point.
For sure, it's inspirational.
Totally.
And what is your favorite self-care ritual or practice?
You know, I think for me, I think my favorite, like the three cut my like little practice is I love to do an evening meditation. And then I like to go have a really nice Epsom salt bath with some rosy smelling things, lathering up in some really nice oils, and then just laying in my bed with very clean, crisp cotton sheets.
Nice.
And if I have that, I have the world. And it's like really just the best thing for me because it's so relaxing. And but it's also like I like the whole process of the bathing too, and you not only bathing in the meditation but actually bathing, and then the rest is just, that's always my favorite. When I have time to do that, I'm happy as a clam.
So simple, but so I can feel it just thinking about it as well. Yeah, a really nice bath and oils and good sheets and chilling out, and a cool cup of coconut water, and everything will be there, you know.
Everything's fine. If that's happening, everything's good in the world.
So good. Perfect. So what's next for you? What's coming up?
So what's next? I'm actually, I just started posting about my megawatt malas. So they're large scale malas that you can put on your altar or have on your lap in meditation practice, or wear, like rock out your big giant mala. It's so cool. And like big tassel. And like, I'm using this new yarn that's pashmina, and it's hand dyed by this woman named Madeline Tosh in Texas, and it's like some of the most beautiful colors I've ever seen. So I'm super just jazzed about these. I'm loving them so much. So I got a few orders of that. They'll be coming up on the website soon, but they're on my Instagram. And then I'm working on a collaborative project with another company, and we're having a blast, and it's going to be so amazing. We're co-creating some wrist malas, and we are just happy. We love it. It's been such a great experience just creating together. So that's coming up. So yeah, a lot of really good things coming up for the fall, and you know, I'm always open for the custom orders. And I'm going to be announcing these cashmere meditation shawls that my friend has been making. And so she used recycled cashmere, and she kind of does the same thing where it's called Satnam cashmere. And so when she's actually sewing them and putting together, she's also doing her mantras and her chants and all the intentions within them. And they're just like juicy, yummy, just you want to just wrap into it. So when October comes, you know, you're going to want that. Right now, neither one of us wants a cashmere.
No. When the cold comes and everyone starts complaining about the cold.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness.
Exactly. So I'm going to be putting that out. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good new stuff. And, you know, I always am astounded with every mala, it's always leveling up in another place. And it's cool. It's ever changing.
Good for you. And where can people find you? Where online, and your Instagram and your website?
The best place is on Instagram. That's kind of where the most like latest stuff is, and images of the latest stuff. Because it's just me. I don't have a team. I don't have a crew. It's just me. And so Instagram is just Sasha Malas. So SATCHAMALAS. And then my website is the same, just www.sashamalas.com. And you can see my work, and I put a lot of like the portfolio pieces of what the custom ones can look like. And sometimes I'll have like a pret-a-porter offerings, like if I have stuff that's ready to go, I'll just drop them on Instagram and they'll be on the website. So there's always that factor too, every now and again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And I learned so much about the mystery and the magic of malas, because I've always wanted to know much more. And it's just nice to speak to somebody about it instead of just, watching videos and reading articles. And also because you imbue it with so much passion, it just makes it even more. It makes it even more real that that when you're going for a mala, how important it is to get the right person and what it can do for you, and the conversations that you need to have in order for that to work for you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Carol, it's been lovely, and you're lovely. And I'm so honored that you asked me to be on your podcast.
No problem. Satnam.
Satnam.
Thank you again, Sasha, for joining me on Her Conversations, and thank you too for listening. You can discover more about me and the Her Project by visiting my website. That's carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. I'm on Facebook under my name, and on Instagram and Twitter under Casmic, CAZMICK. So until the next episode, enjoy your week. Bye.